I used to love summer. I loved the way the sunlight spilled across the porch in the early mornings, how the birds chattered long before I got out of bed, how the garden seemed to glow in the heat. I grew up in the South, where summer was something you endured with a smile and a hand fan. We never talked about heat the way people do now. Heat was normal, sweat was normal, feeling drained by the afternoon was normal. We didn't call it dehydration, we called it getting older. We didn't call it heat exhaustion, we said, you just need to sit a spell. So even as the summers grew hotter as climate changed in ways I didn't understand, I held on to those old beliefs like a woman clutching memories long after they stopped serving her. Looking back, the warnings were there every year. The dizziness I felt when tending my roses. The dry mouth I ignored because iced tea always seemed more refreshing than water. The headaches that throbbed behind my eyes during the hottest afternoons. I brushed them off one by one. I told myself aging was simply uncomfortable, that being tired was normal at 80, that the world spun a little sometimes when you stood up too fast. I didn't want to admit that my body was changing in ways my old habits couldn't keep up with. My son Michael worried more than I did. He'd stop by in late afternoons and find me sitting in my recliner, cheeks flushed, breathing heavier than I should. He'd rush to the thermostat, frown, and say, "Mom, it's 86 degrees in here, why don't you turn the AC on?" I always answered the same way, I don't want to waste electricity. He'd sigh, rub the back of his neck and try again. "Mom, please, it's too hot for you." And I'd say I've lived through worse. There's a strange thing about getting older. You start believing your past strength still belongs to your present body. You think surviving hard years before means you'll survive what's happening now. You don't realize that the same strength you brag about becomes the very thing that blinds you. The summer I was 81 was the hottest I'd ever lived through. Days that felt like someone pressed a hot iron against the sky. Nights where the air didn't cool, it just stopped moving. The news kept warning older adults to stay inside, use air conditioning, drink water constantly. But I didn't think any of it applied to me. I wasn't frail. I wasn't delicate. I still cooked my own meals, tended my own yard, swept my own porch. I saw myself as capable, maybe more capable than I really was. The day before, everything fell apart. I spent hours trimming hedges. The sun was brutal, but I kept telling myself I'd finish quickly, except quickly turned into 3 hours. Sweat soaked my shirt. My head felt light. My arms trembled slightly, but I kept pushing. When I finally went inside, the air felt heavy, not cool. I sat down and gulped a glass of iced tea, proud of the work I'd done, proud that I could still handle things myself. But something inside me felt off. A faint nausea, a pulsing headache, a strange weakness in my legs. I brushed it off like I always did. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because of pain, but because my body felt overheated from the inside. I tossed, turned, kicked off the blankets, turned the fan toward me. I was sweating, but still felt hot, like my skin was holding on to heat that wouldn't leave. My mouth was so dry I could barely swallow. I got up to drink water, but I felt dizzy halfway to the kitchen. I held onto the wall until the spinning stopped. When I reached the sink, I drank 2 full glasses too fast, coughed, then stumbled back to bed. I should have called someone, but stubbornness is a powerful paralysis. The next morning, I knew something was wrong the moment I woke. Not just fatigue weakness, deep weakness. My muscles felt like they'd been drained of everything. My heart raced even though I was lying still. My mouth felt like cotton. My vision blurred when I tried to sit up. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, and the room immediately tilted. I dropped back down, breathless. I remember whispering to myself, "It's just the heat. It'll pass." But it didn't. It got worse. By noon, I couldn't walk without gripping the furniture. My hands shook. My heartbeat thudded irregularly in my chest. Sweat wouldn't come anymore, my body was too dry to make any. I felt cold and hot at the same time. I lay on the couch trying to catch my breath, trying to stay conscious, trying to convince myself that if I just rested, everything would be fine. I should have called Michael. I didn't. At some point in the afternoon, my legs gave out when I stood up. I fell to the floor, unable to catch myself. Pain shot through my hip and shoulder. I tried to push myself up, but my body refused to cooperate. I lay there on the hardwood, the heat pressing down on me like a weight. My vision dimmed. My pulse pounded in my ears. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't move. The last thing I remember before passing out was whispering, "Not like this. Please, not like this." Michael found me hours later. He had stopped by after work because I didn't answer his calls. I woke to the sound of him shouting my name, his voice cracking with panic. He kneeled beside me, lifted my head gently and said, "Mom, oh God, Mom, what happened?" I tried to speak, but could only manage a whisper. Everything hurt. Everything was heavy. At the hospital, they rushed me into cooling treatments, IV fluids, oxygen. The doctor explained what happened, heat stroke, combined with severe dehydration. He said it wasn't a small scare, it was life-threatening. He told me my sodium levels were dangerously low, my kidneys had started shutting down, my heart rhythm was unstable. He said the heat had pushed my body past its limits, because dehydration had left me too fragile to endure it. I whispered, "But I drink." The doctor looked at me gently and said, "Tea isn't water, Mrs. Joanne. You haven't had real hydration in days." I felt foolish. I felt guilty. I felt like a child being told a truth she should have known all along. Recovery wasn't quick. My muscles were weak. My heart rhythm took weeks to stabilize. My kidneys still struggle even now. The heat stroke didn't just knock me down, it stole parts of my independence that I'll never get back. I need help walking now. I can't stay in my home alone during summer months. I have to rely on others for things I once handled easily. Every day feels like a reminder of how one summer afternoon redefined the rest of my life. But the deepest wound wasn't physical, it was emotional. The guilt of knowing I ignored every warning, that I didn't listen to my son, that I mistook stubbornness for strength, that I treated water like an option instead of a necessity, that I believed age gave me immunity instead of vulnerability. One night in rehab, Michael sat beside my bed. I apologized, really apologized. Through tears, I whispered I should have listened. I shouldn't have tried to be so strong. He held my hand tightly and said, "You don't have to be strong alone." If someone were listening, another woman like me, who believes she'll be fine no matter the temperature, who thinks iced tea counts as hydration, who doesn't use air conditioning because she's used to heat, I'd tell her the truth. Heat doesn't care how old-fashioned you are. It doesn't care what you survived before. It doesn't care how tough you think you are. It takes from you silently, then suddenly. Dehydration sneaks up on you the same way, quiet, invisible, deadly. If I could go back, I'd drink water every morning. I'd turn on the air conditioner. I'd stop yard work by noon. I'd listen to my son's fear instead of dismissing it. I'd take heat warnings seriously. I'd accept help before help became the difference between living and dying. But I can't go back. I can only hope my story reaches someone before the next heat wave reaches them. Strength doesn't come from enduring the heat. Strength comes from knowing when you should no longer endure it.